Thank you, Raghu, for that quick introduction, albeit starting with technical difficulties. Now I'd like to introduce our next keynote speaker, Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. So with that, I would like to request Professor Vijay Raghavan to present his or discuss about energy for Athmanirbhar India, share his views on to this forum and what we need to take forward to make this happen. Professor Vijay Raghavan.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. The topic which you've asked me to discuss is energy for an Athmanirbhar Bharat. And I'm sort of reluctant to talk about that because there are far better people on the other side of the screen to do this. Ashok Jhunjhunwala and his team have done an incredible amount of work in general about what Athmanirbhar means and in specific about what to do in various sectors. So I really cannot bring value anymore there. Let me just give a couple of points about this in today's context and then go on to a more general matter, which is about how we need to deal with the issues which we face today on the planet and as a community. Now, about Athmanirbhar, my interpretation is one, that you are not dependent on supply chains, which if broken, throttle you. Therefore, there is a requirement for a country this size to have a basal level of capability and capacity and an ability to implement that capacity constantly, either in emergencies or as a routine process. This does not mean that there is no link with the outside world, quite the opposite. One needs to have an extraordinary link with the outside world, but this is an interdependence of a kind where no one will, number one, cut each other's supply chains because they see the value in the other person's role in the supply chain. And this requires network modeling and analysis where there are nodes which are interdependent on each other, but no node which is so powerful that its absence or its reduction will cause problems for other nodes at a short time. Now, this is, of course, the general matter, and it can be interpreted in it can be implemented in a variety of ways. I will focus now on something which is slightly broader than this and much more worrying, and that relates to how we, since the past several industrial revolutions, have brought the planet to a precipice. I don't know whether I can share a screen. Okay, now, the major challenge we have can be captured by asking how the world would look like in 2050, or how would people predict the world from now to look like in 2050. And that is, if you ask the big four companies in the world, McKinsey and so on and so forth, Ernst & Young, they will give you an economic picture, and you can just Google and look up what their picture is. It focuses on how emerging economies will dominate, what they need to dominate, what they shouldn't do, what policy changes, and so on. But if you ask people who are environmentalists, those who deal with climate change, they will portray a very, very gloomy picture about how loss of biodiversity, damage to the environment, sustainable living, big cities, all pose problems which are going to be impossible to solve. Both will point out in different ways the importance of artificial intelligence in the future of our world. And of course, this is going to be very, very important for us. So what I will do in the next 10 minutes is, number one, tell you a little about how this aspect is going to dominate and how we need to use this in the context of energy or anything else. And secondly, what we need to do about the current state of our planet, how we came about. Now, artificial intelligence relates to the current extraordinary promises and perils of the churning of data in ways which were formulated a long time back, but which have scaled now because of our ability to build and use computers on a scale never before. So the importance of data, computing, and AI and taking it to society is a big challenge. And the fundamental point here, which I try to make, is the following. Throughout human history, knowledge has meant power. And that is equally so now, in fact, more so now. And the ownership of knowledge in this extreme manner today poses a great danger to the democratization of power. And therefore, no matter whether it's energy or health or agriculture, the ability to understand and use the tools of AI and machine learning amongst the community at large is very important. If a country the size of India does not do that and abrogates it to big companies alone, then we are going to be in serious problem. Therefore, teaching and training in every aspect of both engineering, science, history, culture, and the handling of data is very important on scale. And we need to amplify that. It's right now focused on a small number of institutions compared to our population, and that needs to go on a big scale. Now, artificial intelligence itself was formulated when Alan Turing asked the question in 1950, can machines think? And the answer is yes. And that answer, dealing with that, relates to a variety of different aspects, such as building specific computers. We have Ada Lovelace with Babbage's computer here, and dealing with other aspects such as narrow AI, which many biological systems do really well. Here is a termite hill. No termite here knows about what the big picture is. There's competence but no comprehension, yet extraordinarily intricate structures are built by rules which are specified by proximal interactions. The consequence of having tools of artificial intelligence lead to, of course, as all of you are aware, machine learning and deep learning. And this allows a variety of tasks to be done extremely well, but not necessarily broad tasks which require artificial general intelligence of a kind humans have, and we don't know what level of that kind of ability computers will have. But there are two schools of thought, one which says that that will never happen, and the others which say it's only a matter of computing power for making that happen. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up in the context of big data, of which there's a lot of talk going around, and that's important in everything we do. We must keep in mind that data is not information. Information is necessary for knowledge. Knowledge is necessary for understanding, and understanding is necessary for reasoned action. So I'll now go on to what the core aspect of my talk is in the relationship of this background. We need to be able to see what we're doing in the context of these prosthetics which we have developed. Artificial intelligence, computers, our phone, and so on are extraordinary prosthetics. And when we address topics as, use of energy and what kind of energy we need to use and what we need to do, we need to see it in the context of how our intelligence has developed to use these prosthetics. Now, I told you about this termite hill, and that's shown on the left. On the right is shown towers of a cathedral in Barcelona, designed by the architect GoI. And there is comprehension and competence. The workers are competent, and a megalomaniacal architect has this comprehension. In the termite hill, there is no comprehension. Now, the question is, how does our comprehension develop? And that came about by an accident 65 million years ago, when a meteorite crashed in Mexico and eliminated dinosaurs such as this one, whose skeletal remains are shown in a museum in the Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata. The elimination of dinosaurs allowed the rise of mammals and eventually us. Our understanding of the entire evolution of life on this planet came about from work by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. And this is important because it made a fundamentally critical statement that all life on this planet has a common origin, as far as we know, one common origin, and therefore has a shared chemistry. And that shared chemistry is connected by a thread of DNA. And therefore, understanding any organism will lead us to understand any other organism better. This is an extraordinary demonstration of humans' ability to understand nature's engineering. And that is exemplified here by the work in genetics by people such as Thomas Hunt Morgan, who found out what this thread of DNA is about, and then by people such as Crick and Watson and Rosalind Franklin and Wilkins, who told us what the structure of that DNA is. Now, human evolution did something else, which is rather dramatic and we know rather little about. It created us. Our brain size is disproportionately large to our body size compared to similar sized non-human primates. This explosion of human brain size, its reasons are not understood, but one possible reason speculated is that our ability to heat food and therefore pack more calorific content in a meal allowed to generate the energy for expansion of brain size in humans or early humans. This is a very contentious topic, but the fact remains that our brain has grown rather substantially. That growth has taken place by the expansion of stem cells and their progeny in different regions of the brain. But that, combined with our ability to oppose thumb and forefinger and our ability to modulate our sounds and link it to speech centers, has completely changed not only us, but the entire planet. So we now know by an extraordinary in detail about how neurons are made and connected to get this capacity. Our understanding is still poor, but the result of the evolution of the brain is, and the development of language and our development of tools, is that we are people on the planet whose development and evolution is largely cultural and not biological anymore. So this is an extraordinary change. So we have become, instead of those who survive on this planet and manage to, like other organisms, stay not extinct, we have become, as it were, the wielders of the paintbrush. And this is called the MacCready Explosion by Carver MacCready, who incidentally made the aircraft Gossamer Albatross, which was manually went across the English Channel. He says that 10,000 years ago, human population plus livestock and pets was approximately 0.1% of terrestrial vertebrate biomass. Today, human population and our livestock is 98% of vertebrate biomass. So over billions of years on a unique sphere, chance had painted a thin covering of life, complex, improbable, wonderful, and fragile. Suddenly, we humans have grown in population, technology, and intelligence because of these extraordinary prosthetics that were made to a position of terrible power, and we now wield the paintbrush. So we have, when we talk about energy or anything else, extraordinary responsibility in this age of the Anthropocene. Here is one example given for the start of the Anthropocene. That's July 16th, 1945 in New Mexico. This leaves a mark on the entire planet. Did the Anthropocene start here? Did it start 10,000 years ago when we domesticated plants and animals? Or did it start with the invention of the Haber process in the early 20th century, where humans developed the ability to capture nitrogen from the atmosphere and make ammonia and thereby fertilizers, and thereby not limit agricultural production. Today, more than half the nitrogen in your body is from the Haber-Bosch process because of fertilizers. So this is a dramatic change. Now, I'd like to end here with this picture. This is in, I think, 1930s sometime in Manchester. Mahatma Gandhi with the spouses of workers in factories there during the first industrial revolution. The first, second, third, fourth industrial revolutions have completely transformed the planet in a manner unimagined at the time of the invention of the Haber process. The fundamental principle of these revolutions is a simple one, and that is this: future generations will pay for the goods we enjoy today. That is, frugal, high-quality goods for mass consumption will be made, exploiting the environment, having a workforce somewhere which is also used, markets elsewhere, and they are cheap, of high quality, and lasting, because we are not paying attention to the environment or to the future generations, and they will pay for this. And this has been a constant hedging of our development over the last over 150 years. This has now come to a precipice. Therefore, when we talk about energy, we need to talk about it in a context-dependent manner, how we can go back to a situation, not to some pristine old time when technology was absent, exactly the opposite, but to a time when technology is used in a manner where future generations don't pay. There are two solutions to this, and they are both interestingly scientific and technological. The solutions to this problem about how we pay now and how we restore our planet to some level of sanity. The technological solutions are, one, the availability of energy, whether it's nuclear, solar, wind, or hydrogen. We need to have energy available in an environmental form which is not damaging, which is easy to get, hopefully a combination of centralized and decentralized mechanisms. And one of the pioneers of that has been IIT Madras, led by Ashok Jhunjhunwala. The second aspect is also a very important point, which the electrical engineers at IIT Madras have pointed out, and this is something to keep in mind. And that is that because of improvements in quality of power transistors, a revolution which has taken place over the last 20-ish years, we today can have motors which can drive on low DC current in a manner which was unthinkable many, many years ago. And this again has been pointed out by people at IIT Madras, such as Ashok Jhunjhunwala. And you have, therefore, instead of your charger of your mobile phone being like a brick, it's now very, very small. These two aspects are the points which we need to keep in mind when we talk about Athmanirbhar Bharat and energy. Energy should be available, roads, electricity should be available, motors should be available, and the internet should allow learning on scale, and computer-aided design should allow high-quality design products to be made, to be exported anywhere in the world. Life should be, of high quality, but frugal and paying attention to the environment. All of that is possible now, and the very kinds of technologies which, when used for economic growth in an unbridled manner, can now be used for economic and sustainable, high-quality living in a sensible manner. Thank you.